Wait, did you already hit it?
I just did. Meg, hello, hello, hello.
Hi.
Okay, I think you should hear everyone right now. We spent a minute testing the sound. Meg, say one more thing.
Testing, Meg. 1, 2, 3. Here.
We
Hi.
can
Checking.
indeed hear Meg. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you all doing today?
I meant to say checking in, and I just said checking.
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 1, 2,
like I'm doing
3.
like. I was thinking checking like accounting.
Good afternoon, Robbie. Good afternoon, Srebme, Night Hunter Z, Robbie, John, etc. Tomer K. Alex, when are you dyeing your hair? I am not dyeing my hair.
Alex, did you put it on live chat, not top chat?
I did not. Good call. Dear Lord. Can I just change that as a setting forever? Forever?
It's gonna be like a quote. We probably should be able to set it. But that's gonna be like a quote now for us is, did you change it to live chat?
Yeah. Alex will not be changing his hair color. I imagine ever. I think it's Meg, if I did dye my hair for something, let's say a convention, could it get out when the time, like, I'm assuming there's temporary hair dye.
There's multiple ways.
Okay.
The easiest way that I always suggest to people is to wear a wig. Especially for women, if you want to try changing your hair color and you're not sure, get a wig.
No, for me.
For you, there's either like spray kind of hair dye stuff or like chalk based stuff that if you went like dark purple or maybe like a red tint or like dark blue, we could just put it over your hair and it would wash out like the next day.
Okay.
The hair color I do, you've seen how much it fades. If you do something like what I do, it is a demi-permanent, not a semi... No, it's a demi-permanent, not permanent dye. So it fades and will eventually like wash out to blonde again. So you could do that, but that takes like... It would be like how my hair is.
Okay.
And
so
I think that's a long time.
There is the possibility, apparently, that at some point they maybe color my hair for a very brief thing. Maybe
now,
for a convention or a day.
If you're curious about something being very temporary, you could grow your hair like an inch longer, frost your tips, and just do the edges and then cut it off.
This all sounds like a lot of work. I guess it depends on, like, maybe we'll do like a Patreon goal. We'll do a Patreon goal at some point. Alex actually dyes his hair. Because thanks to hanging out with you, I get a lot of people who ask me to dye my hair or what color my beard's going to be or all those things.
Yeah. Your beard with the chalk paint, I think, would work easy, and it would just wash right out. Then I think it could be very funny.
Ryan Gilmore, just so you know. I want it that way.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a mistake.
We're gonna get. Oh, you can't do it, Alex. It's too good.
I'm sorry.
I
Anyways.
think that would be very funny if we dressed it up as each other.
Oh dear Lord. Oh dear Lord.
And you did color beard? I don't know.
Yeah. So today's focus of the live stream is as follows. We're going to go ahead. I like the sweater. It's from Chip 3 Game swag, but like the shoulders bunch up a bit, so it kind of looks like I'm hunched over when I'm not really hunched over. But anyways, you go ahead.
I am gonna go grab my food really quickly.
Grab your food. Grab your food.
Hi, guys.
This focus of the live stream today, this particular live stream, is focused primarily around Chip Theory games, around IV games. Basically, we just went on a content creator back-to-back weekend. Myself and Meg went to Chip Theory games, and then myself, Meg, and Devin went to IV games. Devin is currently still in Tennessee, in Nashville for Tennessee game days, so that's why it's just the two of us today. But Meg and I are currently here, and we're happy to talk about any of the games, which means this is going to be a usual live stream, which means ask us anything at all in chat. To me, the titles are just prompts. If you have specific questions around the Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era, or around Fractious Skies, or around 20 Strong, if you want to ask questions around those, understand we just played those and we can talk more about them. But you can talk about whatever you want here. There's zero need, necessity, whatever. Game Brigade, am I late? That depends, Game Brigade. It's 1 o'clock, so I'm not expecting to see you here until 2:30. Although feel free to come on over and crash, you know, a little early if you want, all that kind of thing. But we're going to go ahead and go to the chat. There's a lot of catching up on, but I might do a little bit of jumping around while I try to catch up. Jason Bagari. Hey, Alex and Meg. Which of the newly announced Awakened Realm games are you most excited for? Meg, I assume you don't know them.
No, I didn't. It was the thing last night.
Yeah. Yep.
I couldn't listen to it. I couldn't get it on the plane, and I literally just made my food. I have been, like, flying by the seat of my pants today.
So
I knew there was a thing, but I didn't get to watch it yet.
Awakened Realms, I think the video I have going up at 4 is going to be a quick conversation around those 4 games. But effectively, Awakened Realms announced, it depends how you count it, they announced 4 crowdfunding campaigns, but then some extra RPG stuff that's not announced yet exactly. But effectively, for the crowdfunding campaigns, they announced a dice campaign, they announced Dragon, oh my gosh, what was it called? Something Dragons, I can't remember what the name was called, I should know this better. But then they announced Stalker, a Stalker IP, which is a video game that's had like 3 three iterations, sold like 15 million copies, and Stalker is basically going to be a board game from Awakened Realms, and then Nemesis Retaliation, I think Retaliation. Now, this is a weird thing to say as someone who works for Gamefound, but none of them particularly excite me. I'm gonna get in trouble for this. For context, the dice are not my jam in general, so I don't care about that at all. Nemesis Retaliation, I am intrigued by, but I haven't even played Lockdown yet, so I can't be that excited. I've played Nemesis, but I have not played Lockdown, so like, what am I supposed to do? Be excited about the third iteration when I haven't played the second iteration? I'm intrigued, for sure intrigued, but not yet excited. Stalker, I need to see more about. I'm not a fan of the video game IP. Like, I don't care about it. I think I played it briefly, but I just don't know it, and because I don't know it, I'm not excited. Now again, I'm not saying I won't become excited for these games, but I'm just not excited yet. I am intrigued by the games. I'm probably most excited by the Dragon one, because it's kind of like a blank slate to me, so I'm intrigued by that. It has dragons. But yeah, past that, let's see, what other questions do we have? And Meg, feel free to grab questions in chat. Go ahead.
Honestly, guys, once I get some protein in me, I'll hype up, but it's been I am exhausted. I'm exhausted. My first game played on vacation was Three Sisters Solo on the plane. It was okay. A lot of people have said there's a version on BGA that isn't the rules that are their solo rules, and I'm going to try that next. Interesting,
because I read the solo rules, and that just sounds like beat your own score, which is not my jam.
The BGA ones?
No, the regular ones. The
regular ones? Yeah, it's basically like Dice Miner Solo, where it's like, oh, if you get this to this, whatever.
James, I saw there was a conversation in our Camp Co-op Discord about the dice, but I didn't follow the conversation. But it sounds like I'm on your side, which might mean that you just don't care. Because I just don't care.
I saw the dice and thought they looked very, very cool. I don't know anything else about it, though.
I think they look cool. It just doesn't help me. I'm not here for the cool dice. Okay, past that, so a few things. We have Mr. Dragon Fox saying, I've playtested 20 Strong, but I can't talk about it because of the NDA. I have played 20 Strong, and I didn't sign an NDA, so I can talk about it all you want.
What was the question?
But there wasn't really a question, but Mr. Dragon Fox was saying he playtested 20 Strong, but can't talk about it.
That means I bet he knows even cooler stuff than we do.
Matthew Lim, do you prefer Elder Scrolls or Hoplo? I'm going to have to go mute my thing, so I just got a WhatsApp ding, which is annoying to you all, so I'm going to close that down. But what's it called? You said what? I got a question. Do you prefer Elder Scrolls or Hoplo? Now, Meg, I'll let you take that one first. I'm sure of my answer.
Well, I think that's not fair yet. To compare.
That's literally my answer.
Not to compare the two. Oh.
But go ahead with more context.
I think we did not get to see enough of Elder Scrolls, so I did enjoy everything that we got to see. But that being said, like, even the customization of picking which hero you want in which race and what things you build into, we only had, I think for the races, we only had 2 choices or 3 choices?
For the race, we only had 2.
Yeah, so things like that I think for me, a lot of the joy is customization and, like, being, like, exactly what you want to be playing. So for me, I do think I will enjoy Elder Scrolls more. I think because of that and the high fantasy and the genre, for me, Hoplomachus, for everything I do love about it, the genre has never been for me. So definitely Elder Scrolls, but I didn't get to see enough of it.
Yeah, my answer is very similar, which is, right now, I think there's a firm Elder Scrolls more than Hoplomachus. The caveat is, had you asked me that, I've only played Elder Scrolls for like 2 hours, or 2.5, 3 hours, something like that, I don't know exactly how long. If you had asked me 3 hours into Hoplomachus, which one I enjoyed more, it would have been much closer. Hoplomachus for me is a game that I loved initially, loved, and then as I played it more, I found it to be a bit grindy in the main sequence and flow of the weeks, and so I still enjoy it, but it's taken away from just how much I enjoy it. So the answer is, like, I think I like Elder Scrolls so much more. But ask me again 15 hours to do it instead of 3 hours. It's always the caveat of giving opinions and first impressions based on the initial high of an experience, as opposed to seeing how that experience lands and settles 20 hours later. It's the danger of reviews, and that's why I have series like Review Look Back, or just general conversations around games, because that means that, yes, the review is a starting base point, but there's still more stuff going on. Meg, there's a question for you in the chat from Hop. Meg mentioned Dice Miner, and I believe she really enjoys that game. I'd like to hear why, because I'm considering getting it to play with my wife.
Oh my gosh, Hop, I love Dice Miner. So Dice Miner is very quick, so, like, that's one of the things I like about it, that for everything it does and how exciting it is, it's, like, extremely quick setup. you play through it quickly, and it's one that you can play like again and again. But it's just dice drafting. So it's dice drafting set collection where you're trying to get different dice that they do. Like you can score for sets, you can score for different uh, symbols next to each other. There are some that you get negative points, but you're drafting off of a mine. So if you take one, then the next person can only take the next one available. So you can kind of like shut out the other player for certain things too, and kind of math out like if I take this, they have to take that, and then I get the thing underneath it and all of that. So it's like thinky for how quick and simple it is. That I like the puzzle of what you get to force the other person to take. And that being said, I think I only prefer it at 1 or 2 player.
Yeah, I agree with that, specifically with 2 players. Because I remember that I first played Dice Miner as a 4-player game, I want to say, and I was like, this is not my jam. And then Meg convinced me to play it at 2-player, and I was like, you literally get twice the number of dice. Twice the number of dice. Yeah, I lost, but who cares? I had more dice. It was fun.
And there's so much more choices, yeah.
I think I would be willing to play it at 3, and 2 players where it's at for me. I didn't love the solo, so that's different there. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's just that I love, I think I just, for whatever reason, really love the game, and I like dice. Like, for how quick it is, it's not even a roll and write. I don't have to sit down and write anything, so for a solo game, it's very fast.
John Tripp, on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed have you been with Devin this week?
Oh, Devin's been an angel. Have you been annoyed at all? Not once.
No, I tried thinking of something. So it's going to be a 0, or I guess a 1, because scale of 1 to 10.
What is Sweetie Pie?
Devin's starting intro to us.
When we got to the Airbnb, were you going to say that he had, like, a bunch of groceries for us? He got me gluten-free bread. He got me ciders. He had the whole kitchen ready.
We were coming off of one trip, and he had just driven in, so he immediately picked us up, and he's like, yeah, I bought you guys groceries. Like, he didn't, like, check with us. He didn't ask us.
So
he didn't send us messages, what do you guys need from the store. We just showed up, and he's like, yeah, I got you bagels, cream cheese, and lox, Alex, and Meg has your gluten-free toast, and some, like, ciders. We hang out, and we know each other, and so he just bought us stuff, and it was just, like, such a nice... Yeah, and he was a prince the whole way through. Like,
he brought a bunch of games. Yeah, like, he offered to go get us coffee.
Yeah, I like my Devin. I like my Devin a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They were both super helpful with, like, my tiny person issues.
Grunge life. What is
I needed to get a glass at one point, Alex, and I almost started climbing the counter, and Devin was like, let me get that.
Grunge life. What is the gameplay loop of the Elder Scrolls game? It looks kind of like a mix between Too Many Bones and Hoplo. I actually agree with that a lot, Grunge life. I think it is still more Too Many Bones than Hoplo, but it does shift a drop towards Hoplo in the gameplay loop. But the gameplay loop is effectively you have a sequence of 3 quests you're going on, and you're going to go through each one until you successfully complete it. Then you go to the next one until eventually you have the grand finale, 3rd quest. The gameplay loop, time-wise, should take you between 3 to 5 hours, I'd say, for those 3 quests, once you know the game. But effectively, in each quest, you have a goal, which means you have a little world map, and you can be wandering around the world map to encounter different things. Along the way, you'll either encounter stuff, in which case that becomes your encounter for the day, or alternatively, you are going to instead just not have an encounter, in which case you draw from the encounter deck, similar to Too Many Bones, and that will define your encounter. The encounters range from choices you make, that are just simply like, hey, here's a choice, make a choice and get the consequences or rewards, or alternatively, sometimes they involve delves, or just general combat encounters. You go back and forth along those lines until eventually you hit the end game and you either win or lose, and then you go to the next quest and continue that. So it mostly feels like Too Many Bones, but the nature of having a separate world map that you're going on, and the nature of the encounters being not as 100% combat focused the way they are in Too Many Bones, and Too Many Bones is more like 95%, but I would say Elder Scrolls might have been more like 75%. So it does feel most like Too Many Bones with a drop of Hoplomachus thrown into the gameplay loop. Yeah.
So I'm leaving chat completely up to you until I'm done eating.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you for telling me the next question for me.
I will take care of it. Okay. Man seeking Meeple. Oh no, I've just come. Have they started talking about Chip Theory's Elder Scrolls games yet? It's one of the games that I'm most interested in. Oh, Kevin. Kevin, I love you. Thank you. You are such a prince. But,
Kevin.
I got a comment on the chaos stream last night, or 2 nights ago, whenever it was. Kevin's like, after the chaos stream, Kevin was like, you guys had a chaos stream without me, and I was like, we didn't try to. It just happened.
Try to.
Kevin is a prince. I appreciate you very much. John Tripp, you fell into my trap, getting you to say nice things about Devin when he's not here. John, I think Devin is both one of my favorite human beings on the planet, and also one of my favorite people to like rib. Both things are true.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like your brotherly nature, because he does it to you back the same way.
Oh, we are jerks to each other. I love it. I love it.
It was the funniest.
You think of Sam?
No, I was thinking of yesterday. I don't know. I won't say.
The line Sam said that was hilarious and we can't say.
No, it was
Okay.
something else. It's fine.
Eat Green Game. Alex, you think Elder has its own place in the collection for all of us to chip their games fanboys? 100% yes. For me, I do have a cap on different things, and I think I question whether Hoplo is going to stay in my collection. Not necessarily regular Hoplo, but Hoplo Victorum. I as much as I want to play it more in different settings, but that's one that I think the gameplay loop has pushed it down enough that I'd rather play other chip theory games. But I want Elder Scrolls, and I still want Elder Scrolls. I still want Burn Cycle. I still want Too Many Bones. I still want Cloudspire. So speaking as a chip theory games fan, right now Hoplo Victorum is potentially being edged out, and everything else is there. And by the way, I think Hoplo Victorum still has its place. I think it is one of the most accessible, but in terms of my own personal gaming goals, I think it is the least intriguing as of right now.
I have a feeling, though, that maybe it's that we took such long breaks between Hoplomachus that even if you did try to solo it or however it gets played more, I think part of it is like the very long breaks that were kind of forced because we were playing it together, so you weren't gonna like keep going if I wasn't there, and then it puts a big space of time between it.
I think that's true to an extent, but I think the bigger thing for me is kind of the thing you actually talked about at one point, which is a lot of the sequence of Hoplo is you have the same encounter on the same map for 7 encounters in a row before you go to the next one.
Yeah, which you're on different maps.
And like that gameplay loop means you're engaged on the same map doing similar puzzles for like 7 encounters in a row before it iterates and evolves. And I've seen that gameplay loop in other games that have eventually left my collection because I don't love repetitive gameplay loops, and Hoplo gives you a lot of fun moments and also a lot of repetitive gameplay loops. Alright, Night Hunter Z. Alex, is Elder Scrolls more accessible than Too Many Bones? I'm worried about upfront difficulty teachability. So, Night Hunter Z, you get to hear my general overall thoughts on Elder Scrolls versus Too Many Bones right now.
Before you say it,
yeah,
can I just show the kids at home to be proud of me?
absolutely.
May I present deviled eggs, guys? This is my lunch.
Can we get a Meg snack counter on stream?
Snack counter starting
snack
now.
Counter. So my overall opinion of Elder Scrolls versus Too Many Bones, as of right now, 3 hours into Elder Scrolls, take that into account because opinions can change as I dive 10, 15, 20 hours into it. My overall opinion at the moment comes down to the fact that I think Too Many Bones is still my favorite game from chip theory games. I do not think Elder Scrolls is unseating that. But I do think it is similar enough and more accessible and easier to play to the point that I wonder if I will end up playing Elder Scrolls more, especially when I'm looping and teaching other players, versus I think chip theory games will be my Too Many Bones will be my preferred game. So that's the overall. It is more accessible is my point, though. Okay, I'm behind in chat.
I think that, like, I'm sorry because I zoned out a little bit if you said this while I was reading chat.
Go for it.
Shout out to Chip Theory for their IP. That I'm not someone who was a fan of Elder Scrolls, so for me going into it, it's like a high fantasy game that I really enjoyed, but not anything like tied to something I feel for. Whereas like all of the gear locks are so cool and unique and fun looking that I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I prefer the Too Many Bones characters and universe to the things you can be in Elder Scrolls.
100% agree. Hard agree. Yeah, Elder Scrolls is great. I don't think it's unseating Too Many Bones for me based on my experience, but I do think, I don't know where it's going to land between the others, but Cloudspire, Burn Cycle are both really incredible games. Like, Meg, you had a chance to play Burn Cycle for the first time, too. But I love Cloudspire and Burn Cycle, and I also...
I really enjoyed Burn Cycle. I think I would like it better, like, now that I know it, because I got it taught, but I didn't get to read the rules. And I think there were some things that just weren't sticking with me or making sense, but with what I did, I had fun. I think I'd have more fun knowing the game better. Yeah.
Sean Marks, Alex, as a Gamefound employee, do yesterday feel like a big deal? It was really impressive what AR is doing. So, Sean, fun fact, I know AR and Awakened Realms and Gamefound have overlap in shared ownership, but from a practical stance, they are very separate, meaning, yes, it was a big deal, but just for context, like, I barely knew anything about the announcement beforehand. I knew, like, the brief details of what was going on, but I barely knew anything because it was an Awakened Realms reveal. It was not a Gamefound reveal. Yes, those titles are on Gamefound, and as someone who's high up enough in Gamefound, I knew the titles that were coming out, but like I knew nothing about them. I didn't know what kind of game any of them were. I just knew that they existed in our system. Like they're very, very different. So it felt very, very cool. But if you want that reminder that Awakened Realms and Gamefound really are separate companies, I barely had any real knowledge of what was going to be happening during that event. Past there was an event happening, and these titles are on Gamefound. So like they are very separate. But as an Awakened Realms fan, it felt very cool. Especially like they had some solid music, pump up pieces and all that. But I felt more invested in that as a fan of Awakened Realms than as a Gamefound employee, if that makes sense. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. Oh no, it is good. Like a lot.
Continue.
Yeah, I think it is good. I think it is. John, listen. Joining 15 minutes in. How much did we talk about Too Many Bones already? Briefly. John Olson, what are these gifted memberships all about? Fun fact, gifted memberships, let's talk about it. So, there are 117 people watching the chat right now. Basically, Kevin, who is a prince, an absolute prince, in general, likes to pop onto these chats and gift memberships. What that effectively means is you get to be a member of Board Game Co. What does it mean to be a member of Board Game Co? And that's a little button that you can find on, if you're on the channel, you'll see, hey, join the channel. That means two things. It means that, one, you are financially supporting the channel, which is appreciated. If you get value from the content, much appreciated. You don't have to, but appreciated. And the second thing it does mean that you get behind the scenes information. So for example, generally there's like, I want to say at least once a week and usually twice a week, there is a link that goes out to YouTube members as well as Patreons. They both get it. And those links are going to be behind the scenes videos. I have a series called Unfair and Unbalanced where I try to convince you not to back every single Kickstarter and Gamefound campaign. And then I also have usually behind the scenes, what's going on behind Patreon or just extra content. So around twice a week you get a video, and then additionally you'll get like, pictures, if like we're at a convention traveling, you get behind the scenes pictures, you get other kinds of updates, stuff like that. So it's both a supporting the channel and behind the scenes info. Through being gifted a membership by Kevin, effectively you are being, getting that behind the scenes info for the next month until the membership runs out, at which point you can renew it yourself if you want to, or choose not to, which is totally cool, or just keep watching live streams and hope that you're in them with Kevin, you'll get another one in the future. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea if Chip 30 Games will ship out those goals to Brazil? I know that with 20 Strong they didn't. Ricardo, I don't know. I know that there's a lot of stuff about shipping things to Brazil that make it very complicated, but I don't know what their plans are, unfortunately, in that particular case. And speaking of Kevin, we have Elders the first time I'm paying attention to Chip 30 Games. So that's interesting. So why, Kevin? What is it about the other games and this one that you are, for the first time, paying attention to it? I'm curious about that.
I think the chat is jumping around on you.
I'm jumping around chat.
Oh, well, you missed a question for Meg.
Hit me. I've been going up and down trying to, there's been a lot of chat. You guys are awesome, keeping it very active, but I've been jumping around, which means I've been missing things.
Noah, who is indeed Grudge Life on YouTube, said, question for Meg. Are we having a Break Meg stream this week and any news on Season 2? I have news on Season 2, Noah. So for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that's Final Girl. Final Girl is a solo game by Van Ryder Games that I am very much into, and it is here at my house now. I picked it up today at my P.O. box. I had to wait till I got home. Ooh, excuse me, guys. I had to wait till I got home, went to my P.O. box today, picked up that and another package, and I will be unboxing it, I think, tonight on Camp Co-op.
Oh, subscribe to Camp Co-op if you want to go ahead and see that. That's going to be,
yes.
Yeah, what's it called? Live, you said?
Yep. That way we can do it like this in chit chat, and you guys can see the 5 starting enemies, and maybe I'll let you guys pick. I don't know the difficulty levels for these, so maybe we can pick what I play on Friday, or I might just go in order. But either way, we can look through everything, and I will be playing one of the new ones from Season 2 this Friday.
Petrified, it does sound like there's a Camp Co-op tonight. It's going to be not a full gameplay, just more of an unboxing chat for a bit.
Yes.
Awesome, Petrified. I appreciate that you like the new zip-up. Again, I mostly like it. It does this weird boxy thing in the shoulders that when I'm sitting, it just makes my shoulders look more square. Which maybe it's a good thing. I don't know, but I don't love that. But it's really comfy. I've only started. My first complaint has been since I've been wearing it on stream, and I'm like, it's off. I need to lower my shoulders.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I feel like now you need a Board Game Co. one.
I should get a Board Game Co. hoodie and suit up thing at some point. But we are getting our first gear. Speaking of which, it's going to be the first Board Game Co. gear and Camp Co-op gear as well. It's going to be in the swag bag if you're going to the Level Up Retreat. That's going to be July 14th through 16th in Connecticut. There's more information. You can check out a video that I did earlier this week on my channel, or last week at this point. You can check out that video if you want to know more. But included in the swag bag, there'll be a bunch of fun things, but those are going to be there too.
And just to clarify for Camp Co-op tonight for unboxing, I think it'll be like 20 to 30 minutes. So it'll be very quick. Not like a normal stream. I just wanted to say that. Petrified said, Meg, where's your Chip 30 Games merch? Fun story about that. We even have other stuff that they gave us, very awesome gifts that we were given. And my bag was already packed as tight as it possibly could be because I was going to Tennessee after that. So I got a bag instead. It's like a very nice tote bag that can fit my laptop. Because my argument was like I can use it year round, I can bring it to all the cons, whatever, have it every day with me instead of wearing the same clothes. Now I'm really jealous and I also want, I really wish I'd gotten a jacket. But so my bag is getting shipped that I don't have it yet. But if anyone does want to see the swag that we got, I have a few things I have to go grab it. I'll go grab what I did get.
Eat, Drink, Game. Alex, curious, did Elder Scrolls seem further along because of all the approvals with the IP, or did you feel it's on pace with other chip theory games going into crowdfunding? Speaking as we wait for Unbreakable. So, I don't have an easy answer to that because of the fact that the only game that I've played, chip theory games in general, does embrace the idea that crowdfunding is crowdfunding. We have an idea, we have a concept, but no, we're not producing a finished game. That's going to come later. That was most present to me when I played Burn Cycle, I want to say, because the other, like Unbreakable, I never played, so I have no idea how far along they were. 20 Strong, never played doing crowdfunding, no idea how far they were along. Burn Cycle is one that I did have a chance to play when they were diving into crowdfunding, and for that, I thought that it was Burn Cycle. I felt definitely was obvious that it was not yet a finished product and needed more tweaking. Elder Scrolls, I think that the current state of where it is, I believe they are doing more tweaking, but what I played could have been a finished product, assuming you had like more classes, more stuff, more things, which I think they have behind the scenes already. So I think it is it's further along than Burn Cycle. That's my only real data point. Okay. Redford Clan, super on the fence about late pledging Legend Academy. Help me. Redford Clan, I can't help you because I love Legend Academy. I do. I also know that Eldorado Games has had issues with their, the last game that they were delivering, and I don't know, as a company that did go through, issues with, and I said this, lots of companies have gone through issues, but they basically said, hey, we're done with crowdfunding. It's not going to be our main focus. It's going to be our side focus. So it's one of those things that you're 95% totally fine in it, and you'll probably get it, but also I can't not acknowledge that nowadays we're seeing more issues and things could be messy. So probably fine, and I love the game, but there might be a risk associated with that.
Show and tell?
Show and tell away.
Okay. I'm very excited about this, you guys. Especially because Alex and I are going to Dice Tower West next week. As if we haven't had enough trips, we have another trip coming up. So, I'm very excited to have this. For said trip, I have a Mythic Mischief crew neck. And to go with it, jogger pants. And they fit. I tried them on, which is like a feat for me, because all of their clothes were a little bit small. So they
shrink.
And they have
shrink
pockets.
Yep. All their stuff shrinks in the wash.
These were a little big. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And then my favorite thing that I got from Chip Theory Games, I had to bring in my bag to keep it safe, but they have the waterlogged book, and they gave me one. And there's a whole story that it's like hand distressed and dirted. There's a bunch of dirt in here. And he was like, Josh kept joking and saying, like, that's genuine Minnesota dirt from like their headquarters from out in like their parking lot. But you can see like there is legit all of this dirt. I don't want to move it too much because I don't want to lose any of the dirt.
You don't lose the dirt.
I don't want any of it to come out. It came out the first time I opened it. It like spilled all over one of their game tables. But it's so cool.
Tommy Two-Tone Gaming.
One of the coolest things I'll ever have in my life.
Tommy Two-Tone Gaming. Hey, I love the stream. You guys are awesome. I have a question. Is there any other games you would recommend, like role-player adventures? That's a good question. So, I would recommend Skyrim. I think it gives me a similar vibe to role-player adventures, and possibly Destinies as well. And then a little bit Trudvang as well.
And if you want a much lighter version, there's the Legacy of Dragonholt. That one's a very much choose your own adventure where you're making different decisions, but it's much lighter.
Yeah. Braz, why is Alex wearing a Chip Theory Games jacket? Is he sponsored by Chip Theory Games? No, Braz, not sponsored by Chip Theory Games, but they did give me a jacket, and I am wearing it. I understand, and this goes back to the sword controversy in general. In general, there's always the risk that whenever you in any way wear anything from any company, or in any way do anything other than work directly with them, that there's a degree of bias. Like, I love my Mythic Mischief hoodie that I got from them, doing the last Mythic Mischief campaign, and some people were not happy about that. The quote I will give that I personally subscribe to is a quote from somebody else who, doing the whole sword debacle in Chip Theory Games set out swords, is what they said is my board game, I can't remember the exact quote, but there's a quote from another content creator, and they basically said that there's not enough money in the content creator ecosystem for me to want to further remove enjoyment from my hobby that I don't need to, which is how I feel. I think that I acknowledge that any degree of closeness with any company, and I am genuinely friends with many of the people at Chip Theory Games, I acknowledge that any degree of closeness does produce not just opportunity, it does produce bias. Bias 100% does and will exist. I will always do my best to counter that bias as much as possible and be transparent as much as possible, and I am in the fortunate position to have enough of a size where I can say negative things and not overly worry about my negativity, but my relationships being affected. I can tell you that I have had companies that I thought were cooler that I said negative things about their games and they stopped working with me, and that's just the price of doing things. And I can tell you that in Chip Theory Games, like I'm sitting here telling you, hey, I think Elder Scrolls is great, but I still like Too Many Bones more, and I'm not sure exactly where it falls between Burn Cycle and Cloudspire and all that. I can also tell you that I did not like Trip Lock in the slightest, although that's not the conversation. But short version is, yeah, not sponsored by Chip Theory Games, definitely biased, less by the jacket, more so by the fact that I'm friendly with a bunch of people who work there, and take that into account. And if you get value from my content, excellent. And if you don't, I understand. Clark B, I can't wait to meet you next week. Can't wait for Dice Tower West. Ooh, Clark B, great. Awesome. I'm looking forward to that.
Jeremy said, Meg, I will send you more Minnesota dirt if you need it.
That is funny. That is funny. I also had a question. I missed a question. Somebody asked me a question about Meeple version or mini version. Here, Austin Estrada. Thinking of getting DEI, do you recommend Meeple or miniature version? Which of any expansions should I get? I cannot answer the expansions because I haven't played them. I've read the rules for a few of them and they look fun, but I haven't played the expansions, so I can tell you that I'm interested in them. But I can also tell you that I've played games like, Lost Winds of Arnak, where the expansion majorly enhances the system, versus I've played games like Blood Rage, where I feel the expansions are, you can use them, but you don't need them. So I can't answer that question until I play them. I can tell you I recommend the miniature version. I believe, and I'm not certain about this, I believe they are only supporting miniature version long term. I don't believe the Meeple version is being supported long term. I could be wrong with that. Take that into account.
You just said long term twice. You mean short term?
Well, I think I mean long term. Meaning they had a Meeple and a miniature version. I don't believe they are going to be supporting the Meeple version forever.
I missed hearing the don't.
Yes.
I was like, that didn't make sense, but I see.
What is this con swag trip? I'm falling way behind the channel's videos. James, for shame. You should be watching 15 videos a week, just like everyone else. James, there is a con happening, the Level Up Retreat that I'll be hosting. It's going to be, I'm working with Level Up conventions or whatnot, and they are hosting a convention, or I'm hosting a convention with them, July 14th through 16th in Connecticut. You can check out the full video I did in it. It's like a 7-minute long video I did last week. There'll be more information and more videos as more information is locked in, but there's a bunch of people who are going to be there as far as special guests. We're going to have, Professor Meg, Devin going to be special guests, Foster the Meeple is going to be there, the Dragon's Tomb is going to be there. There's a bunch of other people who are interested and have not yet confirmed, and so anyone who's not confirmed, Quacklope's going to be there as well. Anyone who's not confirmed, I'm not saying yet. There's a bunch of companies who are being involved as sponsors, and there's going to be a bunch of swag as well. So there's going to be a swag bag there that includes various things like water bottles and I'm blanking on every single thing in there, and counters and potentially games. There's things, there's stuff. I'm not saying everything. Okay. I'm not saying what did you want to say? Probably fine.
I don't know. No, nothing in particular. I just wasn't sure.
Oh, I mean, if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. That happens sometimes. But yeah, there'll be a bunch of various things there. And so, yes, Kevin, Jesse's going to be there as well. So there's going to be a bunch of different things going on at this Level Up Retreat. It's going to be, again, in Connecticut, July 14th to 16th. There's an all-in package if you want to get your hotel room and block and all that stuff. And then you can just alternatively drive in or get your own space and just get the badges as well. It's going to be 3 days there. 3 days. Check it out. But it's going to be fun. We're going to have a fun time.
I'm exhausted, you guys.
Jeremy Oliver. DEI is less combat focused than a lot of area control games. What's it called? DEI is less combat focused than a lot of area control games. Yes, and I like it because of that. To me, DEI almost reminds me more of El Grande, and I love El Grande, or Rurik for that matter. Games, and El Grande and Rurik are both good examples in the sense that they have the possibility for combat and for taking out enemies, while at the same time that's not the main focus. So all three games have some degree of hurting each other and a lot more focus on just the control and manipulation of the system, which I find significantly more compelling.
Alex, Clark said, are you doing any special meetups? I believe they're talking about Dice Tower West. That's a good idea. Maybe we should do like a specific meetup time.
Ooh, we should add it to the.
We do have a decent handful of people.
I was gonna say at this point, like we have such a long list of things we're trying to do at Dice Tower West, and it's one of those things like because Meg and I travel a lot, and Devin, and like what we do is like we have these trips like where we're like, okay, we have 2 days, we're gonna get these 7 things done, then we get like 1 done, and then we're like, nope, now it's a full week, we're good. You still get nothing done. Still get nothing, but maybe I'm certainly open to the idea of doing a special meetup. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nidamir, I don't think the board game industry is big enough for big bias. Like, he got a sword, and I just bought a game for enough money to buy 2 swords. So, this again, I think there's 100% bias in the industry. I just think people put their focus in the wrong area. My friendships in the board game space are so much more of a factor in bias than the fact that I got a sweater that I'm going to add to my collection of 20 sweaters. So, again, there is bias, and I will not take away from the fact that there's bias. It is there. But it's never about the sword. It's about the fact that somebody you go out for drinks with is the same person you have to hop on camera and then say, you know what, honestly, I've really enjoyed IV games until now. This one's not for me. Like, speaking of which, Fractured Sky is a good example. Fractured Sky is, I like it. I like Mythic Mischief more. Mythic Mischief to me is more my jam. I think Fractured Sky is probably more aligned with Moonmakers with expansions for me. Like, I enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, that's not like a negative thing. But, like, I'm not going to gush over every single thing. I will try to appropriately match my opinion of a game with, well, my opinion of a game. Very often that will mean I like a game. Very often that will mean that I love a game. And very often that will mean that a game is not for me. And sometimes I think the areas where, like, you don't necessarily see it is sometimes they're... Oh, petrified. What's it called? Sometimes the areas where you don't necessarily see it is sometimes they're... Because I have a relationship with a company, this is definitely true in crowdfunding. If I have a good relationship with a company, and it's a crowdfunded game, not a retail game, I will offer to not cover something I didn't enjoy. This is not true with retail. With retail, I cover it. Once it exists, it just exists. But if it's a prototype, I am mindful of the fact that I don't want to be too harsh to a game that, strictly speaking, isn't even in its final form. And so again, there's definitely things that happen. But if I give an opinion on the game, you can bet that as much as possible, I try to be cognizant of bias. Good afternoon. I didn't know you guys would be streaming. James, it's 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, which means we are definitely 100% streaming. By the way, guys, next week, Wednesday, I don't know if we'll be streaming.
Yeah. I ruined your joke. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were going right into that.
Yeah. Srebby, yeah.
For now.
Yeah. Oh, next week I don't think we're streaming, right, Meg?
I don't think so, but we can.
I would plan for there to be no stream next week, because it's interesting. So Devin was originally going to be going to Dice Tower West with us. He had a conflict where his wife was going somewhere else and he couldn't, so he instead switched to Tennessee Game Days, where he's at now. And that does mean that maybe we'll have Devin and Jenna do like a stream.
Maybe.
That could be fun.
One of them would have to run Streamlabs.
Yes.
Which I think Devin could.
There might be a stream next week. Don't necessarily count on it.
That's the only thing, is the tech side that you and I are the only ones that have the setup to that.
Sreb, me too. I was comforted doing this week's cast stream when Alex's opinion of Ivy Studios games didn't change when Austin was standing right next to him. 100%. In fact, one of my favorite things was I did a video with Austin, who works for Ivy Games, and it was like top 10 games. And doing that video, someone commented on the video saying, like, hey, it's really suspect that you're, like, doing a video with this person whose games you review. Like, I think that's really not good. Like, how could you possibly critique their games if you're that close with them? And somebody else commented saying, did you watch the video? He literally critiqued their games to his face in the video. And, like, which is true. Like, if you have a good enough relationship with somebody, then they hopefully respect that they can't have it both ways. If my job is to critique things, sometimes that means I'll be critiquing things in front of them. Now, I am mindful of language. You'll never hear me say, oh, I hate that game. But you will hear me say that game wasn't for me and here are the reasons why. Or here are the things I didn't like about it. Yeah, it's a balance.
That may end up being a game you hate.
Yeah, but I don't think... So this is where the bias does come into play.
Nuts. No. Like, if some crazy... I don't know.
This is where the bias does come into play. If the amount of games that I genuinely hate are very rare. But there's a handful of games that I'm like, I want nothing to do with. And to that end, I would say that if one of those games happened to overlap with a friendship, I almost certainly would not say I hate that game. I would soften my language and be like, it really wasn't for me, here are the reasons why, when I might be a drop more casual with my language otherwise. But I don't, even then, I really... So, fun fact, let's go back to a, like, way back story. And you may have heard this story this weekend, Mag, because I told it, I don't remember if you were around. One of the reasons I'm so mindful with language is because one of my first introductions to the board game world, you heard this one? Yeah.
I think so. You did say hate?
Yeah, I was doing one of my videos, like one of my earliest videos, and it was a Games Leaving the Collection video, and in that video, at one point, the final game, I did my usual thing where I'm like, hey, this is a good game, but I can't keep it. This is a good game, but I can't keep it. This is a good game, but very often the games I'm getting rid of are games I enjoy. And I got to the end, and there was a game called Sierra West, And I held it up and I was like, I hated this game. I was like, this is not for me at all. I hated it. It was way too complicated and it didn't even have depth. It was just complicated unnecessarily. I hated it. And then done. Conversation over. The designer of that game is someone named Johnny Pat Canton, who was someone who I used to trade board games with, and I didn't put two and two together who it was. But he was someone who I traded games with, and I didn't realize he was the designer of the game at the time. And he messaged me a few days later to start another trade, and he's like, oh, by the way, really sorry that Sierra West wasn't for you. And, like, I didn't really realize, and I looked up the name, I looked at the person, and I was like, this person who I've been trading games with for years, I just went on camera and said, I hate this game, I hate this game, I hate this game. And, like, he watched that. He designed this game, and he watched me just dump all over the game. And I was like, that is just not cool. Like, there's a person on the other end of the conversation, and while that person has to deal with criticism, I didn't hate the game. I didn't have a fun time playing it for a variety of reasons, and I could be critical. You can be critical without dumping on someone's creation. You can say all the things that are critical, and ever since then I've been mindful of over-the-top language when it's unnecessary. It's not for me. Here are the reasons why. I don't need to say I hate it. Okay, where are we? We're up to. I'm sorry, I've gone a bit of a tangent here, but this is what it is. This is Borg & Co.
I've been leaving most of the things to you because
sure. I have plenty to go
around
through.
a little bit, but hey guys, if you have any other questions that we skipped that were about the games, I think there were 20 strong questions earlier. If you guys want to re-ask them, I'm sorry.
There was one from
sorry.
The person who playtested it, Mr. Dragonfox, said, Alex, given the fact that you don't love dice games, what was your opinion of 20 Strong? So first of all, I think
it was so easy this time for you, right?
I think it was a misconception. I said earlier that I don't care about dice what I meant by that is I was talking about the Awakened Realms dice announcement. I don't care about dice in and of themselves. I love dice in games, but just dice for the sake of dice.
You like it as a mechanic, not as like a luxury item.
Correct. And so to that end, first of all, so I have no issue with 20 Strong to begin with, but my opinion of 20 Strong was very, very positive. Like, I really liked it. It's a solid little puzzle. Meg's comment there was the fact that someone else asked, did you play through a full game of 20 Strong? And did you win it? And the answer is we did play through a full game of 20 Strong. We actually did amazingly well up until the very last boss, and then lost to the last boss.
We lost by like 2 health points.
And I think we could have even done it had we been a little bit more on top of it. But basically, 20 Strong was excellent, in my opinion. And then we got to see the Too Many Bones deck and the Hoplo deck, but we only partially played through them, not fully. But I loved my experience with 20 Strong. Obviously, I need more than 1.5 plays under my belt to fully comfortably talk about it. But yeah, very much my jam. Solid solo puzzle. I think it's going to be one of my more favorite solo puzzles. Yep. Yep. What else is there? Petrified, sub me. Very true, but to counteract, Alex just makes Austin feel guilty but not using Gamefound. I don't know if I care if Austin uses Gamefound or not. They ran Mythic Mischief on Gamefound, and they didn't work out for them. And this is a conversation that Austin and I have all the time, because I told Austin before they ever launched that I said I think Mythic Mischief is going to underperform their other games. I said I think the initial visual appeal is not the same as Moonrakers or Veiled Fate. And Austin acknowledges that I've said that before they ever launched, but he also is like, but also maybe it's Gamefound, maybe it's that, and so he's not. They weren't really sure, and that they've said, hey, maybe we'll go back to Gamefound in the future, but they were a little gun shy because even though the campaign did really well, it did underperform the other games. Okay. Hop, Alex, I know it's 10 months old, but the video did, and what I want from Awakened Realms edition of Castle Burgundy was excellent. Basically, agree with all of it. Aw, shucks. Thanks, Hop. I appreciate it.
Good job.
I've played Castle Burgundy twice this week, which is nice.
Oh yeah, that's true. Twice?
I played it online with the Camp Co-op crew, and then once with you, Josh, and Jeremy Howard.
Who did you play with Camp Co-op?
George and Successful.
Aww.
Yeah.
Who won?
I won.
Yeah, you're such a...
I have a 100% win rate across the Burgundy with over 50 plays, Meg.
Was it their first time in it?
What's it called? That's not true for anyone watching. That's an inside joke. Was it their first time? So I didn't even realize this. It was not Successful's first time, but it was George's first time, and I didn't realize that when we were playing. Just like a little bit through the game, he did a few moves that I thought were like
so brave, like just jumping into games. They just want to play.
Yeah, I want to play. I'm down. I'm down for more. Hit me up. Also, Devin, when you watch this, it's your turn on A Feast for Odin.
For real.
Meg, question for you. Have you ever thought about doing reviews in your own way?
So petrified. I keep just wanting to say Yaracha. Kind of. I have thought about it, and I think that for the review space and everything that it does for my personality and the things that I would be saying, I think a classic review is not something I'd ever really do besides joining in on reviews when I do. I like joining reviews and first impressions, but I think my own not so much. My channel has some very old videos, like my Terraforming Mars one. I think that's as close as I would ever get to a review, and it's more like a overview and thoughts and experiences on the game. But yeah, I think actual reviews I would only really join, but that might change. Who knows?
It's fair.
Mhm.
Clanchelon, I love campaign games in theory, but setup and bookkeeping between sessions are a huge barrier to entry that makes them insanely hard to table. Any campaign games come to mind that avoid this issue? So I'll start with roleplay adventures. I think is actually very
Yeah.
low on that. Very low. Like there's definitely stuff. Like if you're playing roleplay adventures and you're jumping into it like 6 months later, you'll have to refresh stuff what's up. But like that's a game that like a month can go by and I could jump in straight into and not have to remember what's going on. With other games, it's a little harder. Any others, Meg, that come to mind?
Vagrant Song doesn't have too much. I think that you need a little bit of organization, but it's not even too many components, and it does give you a really good campaign feel that it has different things you acquire through the game and decision points that I think it has enough to be like that higher level of campaign game, where you unlock different things and stuff. But there's not too much to really keep track of as long as you can be like, the only writing in it is crossing things off. And apart from that, it's more storing things in the right bags, and that's it.
Yes, that's a good one. I think it's a fair
It's
one.
a boss battler, though, so it's not like a adventure type thing. But it does have a whole narrative arc that's very cool, in my opinion.
Andrew Britt, if you were looking at Elder Scrolls and Skyrim on a shelf, which one would you bring to the table more often? So Meg, you haven't played Skyrim yet, so I don't know if you have thoughts
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah.
Elder Scrolls and Skyrim, I believe Skyrim would hit the table more often, but I might end up playing Elder Scrolls more just in game time. And it's a very complicated answer, but I think from a pure mechanic standpoint, I like Elder Scrolls more. But Skyrim really did have a very compelling just one more turn aspect to it. Whenever I dive into Skyrim, I'm like, I just want to play for a little bit more. I just want to play like just draw it more. Just go into one more quest. And that's what my initial first impressions was, and diving back into it since then has been very similar. I find Skyrim very compelling. The art, not for me. The combat, much better in Elder Scrolls. So I think Elder Scrolls wins on a lot of counts, but Skyrim really just had a very satisfying just one more turn feel to the gameplay. Meg, question for you. Meg, 20 strong versus final girl. Which one wins so far?
Ooh,
This is a fun question.
that's actually like a hard, weird question. Because for those that don't super know about 20 Strong, I don't think we've said this yet today. But 20 Strong, it's a certain IP where they have these mechanics. They have the base 20 Strong, but then they have all these different versions. And for regular 20 Strong, I can say anything about the mechanics, right, Alex?
I
There wasn't anything
believe
secret.
so. I believe so.
And base 20 Strong,
You
there's
could always
like
ask Josh in
three
chat
rows of
because Josh
enemies.
Carlson's in chat, so you can always ask him. You're
Okay,
fine.
well, Josh,
Meg,
if I see
Meg just went from I'm probably fine to never mind. Alex, your question.
No, I think I have a good answer. So for regular 20 strong, you're fighting these three monster decks, and that's how it's set up. And then, for example, like the Hoplomachus deck is you're fighting through like a triangle of things, and it's all these different piles that you're actually like kind of traveling around the board, the cards, and you're fighting scions. And then there's the Too Many Bones one, which is completely different, and you can like slot your bones and things like that. So they're all very different, but each deck is like a set deck. Like you're playing the Too Many Bones deck, you're not going to ever mix them together or something like that. Whereas with Final Girl, you have the different versions that you're mixing together. So you can have, I'm going to play Camp Happy Trails with Dr. Frey or mix and match. So for me, if you're talking about an entire collection of something, I would probably choose Final Girl. I have a lot of fun with that one, and I like the card mechanics. If I had, all of the things to choose from and mix and match. If I had a set location and enemy that I was fighting every time, I would much prefer 20 strong. That I think that the replayability of how the decks seemed, it seemed a lot more fun, and that there was a lot more there, and it's a lot easier to travel with. So I think it depends on I think it's not fair to say
This or
20
that.
strong versus Final Girl unless it's like all of both collections. And then if it's all of both collections, you're gonna break my brain. Don't make me pick.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed. In fact, arguably, I think for me, 20 Strong was possibly more of a highlight to me than Elder Scrolls. Because Elder Scrolls, and I don't know which one I like better. That's even a question. But Elder Scrolls.
Come on.
Well, what? You see?
Really?
No, because Elder Scrolls is more similar to Too Many Bones. So it's kind of vying in the same space. Versus 20 Strong is, because I'm not a Final Girl person, 20 Strong really is kind of its own little dice solo puzzle that I really enjoyed.
I think the actual gameplay, Elder Scrolls, was a lot more exciting, though.
Probably. Likely. Did you get to try Fractured Skies already? Thoughts on it? Yes, I got to play, like, Fractured Skies, I don't know, like 4 times this week and, like, once before. We've dove into it quite a bit. My overall thoughts on Fractured Skies, and obviously there'll be a full video at some point. But Fractured Skies, have we played it at 3 players yet? I don't think we played it at 3. No. I think it's always been minimum 4.
I was thinking that I was curious even what the 5 players like as well.
So I want to try the 3-player before I officially cover it, because that I'm curious how that experience is. But past that, I really like Fractured Skies. It is most similar to me to a game that I really am a huge fan of called City of Spies. The City of Spies Estoril of 1942. And to me, it's an area control game with hidden placement. So you're placing things down as you try to vie for control, being mindful of getting points right now versus being mindful of building up your engine, your marketplace, your towers to better set you up for the future. And so you're constantly choosing between now and the future while being mindful of the general area control, where the points are, where to invest into finding out where the points are going to be, because there's hidden and public objectives as you go through it, and you can pay into finding them. And it turns it into both a economical tableau building engine while also being mindful of the double think involved in trying to mess around with other players as you try to figure out, do you lock in a safe pick of getting a single point this round, or do you try to like play a few mind games where you might get 2 or 3 points, but you also might walk away with nothing if you play the mind games poorly. And so I really enjoyed it quite a bit. And to answer Chris Porter, because I may have said Fractured Skies, I keep calling it Fractured Skies, but I think it's Fractured Sky. I'm pretty sure.
It is just Sky.
Yeah, in fact, what I really started calling it is Fractured Fry. Longer story there. You can watch our videos and find out. But yeah, I really enjoyed Fractured Sky. For me, it's one that the main thing I want out of it, and you'll see this in my review, is I want more interesting powers and abilities, which if you watch my content is not a surprise to you. The gameplay system as is incredibly well done, but it's also very, very static. Not a lot changes up the experience game to game past the evolving nature of playing against other players. So I think the core is incredibly solid. For me, whether it's a long-term game in my collection might come down to whether the expansions, what the expansions add and how they mix it up. I'm definitely the target audience for it, but I also like my powers and abilities. Yep. Andrew Bitt, what are your opinions on board games transferring to video games and vice versa? Ooh, what board games have transferred to video games? I'm curious about that.
I guess like something like Gloomhaven.
That's an adaptation kind of more than a transfer. If you mean that, maybe. I'm curious if any board games have become... Oh, I guess Nemesis. Nemesis has become a video game. Speaking of which, yeah, Awakened Realms actually has been doing that. What are my thoughts? Oh, yeah, and he just replied Nemesis, yes. What are your opinions on board games transferring to video games and vice versa? So I have not played any board games that turn into video games, so I don't have strong thoughts there. I do like the cross-pollination of the universes because it hopefully builds a larger board game space, although I am mindful that the video game space is a drop more toxic, and I hope that as we cross-pollinate universes, we do so in a way that breeds the best personalities and people, as opposed to taking some of the toxicity of the video game space over. Not to say everyone in the video game space is toxic, but there is certainly a higher percentage of that kind of thing. But so overall, I like the growth of the hobbies that it introduces, and I also like seeing certain video games that I've enjoyed playing turn into board games. Like I love Slay the Spire, and I like playing Slay the Spire now physically. I enjoy that. Versus sometimes it's also going to be a miss. For some video game adaptations, we're just not going to land when you want them to land. Like for me, Elder Scrolls is an interesting one because I actually like Elder Scrolls, but like that's to me that Elder Scrolls is an IP on a Chip Theory Games game. I'm not there for that. I'm just there because I like the game. The IP is something that I'm just fine with it being there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like it when, as someone who started with video games first, when there are mechanics that feel cool in a way that it's like relating to the video game scene as opposed to like trying to make something work that doesn't. And I really enjoyed in Elder Scrolls, there's a cooldown mechanic, but you can also manipulate it, and it gives you that feeling of only being able to use certain abilities within a certain span of time. And I just think that was really cool how they did that. Another one that we recently played, what was the one, Alex, with the pixel art?
Encounter Shattered Wastes.
Yeah, that one I didn't love as much, but I did enjoy like the pace of how the enemy built up. And I really enjoyed that in that one there's a way where you have to slot yourself like either in the front or the back. And I think that like it's just these like video game mechanics that get transferred to a board game, and it's like this works in board game terms. It's very cool.
I'm realizing in hindsight that my title and thumbnail say Fractured Skies. So I'll be changing that after the stream. Anyways.
I thought you were gonna say fry.
Oh, that would be even better. But that would be an inside joke no one would get. I'd get like 17 comments saying that you messed up. Tommy Two Tone Gaming, I like this question. Has there been a change in how you perceive games? Can you sit back and enjoy a game for what it is, or does your mind always go into content creator mode and review mode? So, for me, the answer is not about the content creator mode and review mode, but rather, like, that doesn't bother me at all. I tend to view things very analytically as much as possible anyways, and so, like, I just play the game and I am processing, but I am someone that like Meg and Devin make fun of already because I like to rank everything, and they're often like, why do you have to rank everything? I'm like, because everything has a tier, everything has a place, and this is how the world has an order to it. And so like it's one which I like ranking things and looking at things critically, so that's not an issue. The issue I have is that when you play 400 games a year, sometimes it's hard to be fair to something. Like, sometimes a game that I would have been totally fine with and thought was great, but I've just seen so many things that it didn't stand out. And so something that I think is interesting, a lot of the older games I have, like Five Tribes is a great example I always think of. I think Five Tribes is a great game. I think if I were playing Five Tribes for the first time today, I'd probably be like, it's pretty good, and then I'd probably get rid of it. But, like, because it got in early on, I was kinder to it. So that is that is a thing that I think that it's more about the number of games, where sometimes it's hard to be as fair because you're just seeing so much. Game fatigue can be a thing. Not fatigue of playing games, of just fatigue of you're not doing anything new. Even though to someone else it would be the best game they've ever played. So that's a factor that I try to be mindful of, and there's only so much you can do. Ultimately, I will be rating games within the context of the knowledge I have, which is it's a balance. Yeah. Well, I saw I missed a question there earlier. Kevin, actually, to build on the question Andrew asked, what about the general flux of IP games versus original games? Kevin, that to me is tricky. I find IP games in general, whether video game or TV or movie or whatever they are, I think I tend to walk into those a bit more skeptical, and it actually sets something up in a way that it could be a disappointment, even if it wouldn't have otherwise been. A good example would be Far Cry, when they announced their board game. I thought the Far Cry board game looked totally fine as a completely nameless board game. But as a Far Cry board game, I was actually like against it. I was like, this does not feel like Far Cry. And so I really didn't like it because it didn't feel like the IP. Combined with the fact that you automatically walk in thinking, okay, great, they're selling it based on the IP, they're putting less time into the gameplay. I think an IP makes a game a harder sell to board gamers, but it makes it an easier sell to others. So I'm not against it or for it, because I think it ultimately comes down to how you handle it. I think it has potential to help grow the hobby, but I do walk into most IP games, including Elder Scrolls, being a drop more skeptical because you're selling it based on the IP. Okay. What else do we have here? We have Two-Tone, really good so far. There's a lot of chat going on that's very entertaining. People are having a conversation in German, I believe, as we go through this. I have no idea. Yep. Slapping a new flavor on an old game, i.e. Clue Monopoly. I don't know if that... I don't understand the question. Like, I mean, a new theme of, like, if you have a Too Many Bones Monopoly, I might play it for, like, on the channel for kicks, but I wouldn't actually...
Literally, when you said Monopoly, I was like, no Monopoly could get me, and then you said Too Many Bones Monopoly, and I was like, okay, I guess I would try that.
I'd try it, but, like... I'd probably want to do a gameplay video, so it's funsies, and I get some content out of it, but I can't imagine I'd continue. Braz, regarding IP, I'm very interested in Stalker as well, but you also can't wait for all the scrolls. Will you be able to playtest it? And if yes, what do you know when? I don't know. Fun fact, going back to the earlier conversation between Awakened Realms and Gamefound, ever since I started working for Gamefound, I tend to get less access to Awakened Realms titles, not more. I think there is the awareness and the mindfulness that people are going to watch a video like that and not be able to see past the bias. And so, like, generally what's been happening recently is, like, Quackle will get the game. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, I never covered, the cast of Burgundy properly. I never, like, properly covered the game. I just, Quackle had it, I never got around to it. I could get it, if I really wanted to, I could chase it and get my hands in it, but I don't chase it because I am mindful of the fact that even though I know that I'm trying to counter bias, anytime I do a video around Awakened Realms title, you're going to have 15 people in the chat who are, like, in the comments who are like, oh, you can't cover this game or whatever it is. And I don't love that. I'd rather spend my time covering games that I don't get that quite as much. So I might cover it. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. Ultimately, we'll see. We'll find out. Okay, Jacob Porter, I'm really over these IP games. Jacob, I'm sorry, I can't be over the IP games. There's too many things. There's too many games that are good and enjoyable. Jonathan Saint, rank everything. Rank your top 5 snacks. Ooh, this should be easy. Now, off the cuff ranking, I do hold on to the willingness to change it as I think of the other things later. But top
Austin
5.
is here.
Austin
We're leaving
isn't.
soon.
Dang it. Austin, I am aware that the title and the thumbnail say Fractured Skies instead of Fractured Sky. Wait, is it Fractured Sky or Fractured Skies? Which one is it?
Sky.
It is Sky, right?
S-K-Y.
Sky. Okay, I'm
Sky.
aware that the thumbnail and title are wrong. I'm going to be changing them later, just so you know, Austin. Anyways, past that, so snacks. What snacks do I even enjoy, Meg?
So that's been us this whole trip. As soon as we went into a time change, we were an hour late for everything.
Yeah. What is it? What do I'm not a big snacker. I like coffee a lot. I'm not a big snacker.
Well, I hate to be a party pooper, Alex, but we're hitting an hour now.
Do you want to wrap this up? We can wrap it up.
Yeah, and maybe I'll make you open with your top 5 snacks after you've had time to think about it.
I'll open with a top 5 snacks next week if we do a live stream next week or something.
Coffee?
It's coffee. I really don't snack much. I eat meals and I eat. I mean, I don't know. I just really don't do snacks.
You know
that
what's
much.
really good, guys?
Mm-hmm.
The nerds with the gummy nerds. There are ones that are like little gummies with a bunch of them stuck in it. They're delicious.
Name the stream top 5 snacks. I think I'll do that, Kevin. But I have to think about it because I'm thinking like, I don't snack.
Alex's trivia show is gonna be y'all trying to guess his top 5 snacks.
I'll have to guess
You
them.
don't even know.
I don't know this.
That'd be so funny.
Tommy Two-Tone Gaming, I'll answer this last question because I always like these questions because they're very personal. I enjoy them. But I'll answer this last question and we'll call it for this week. By the way, sometimes we usually run well past an hour, but like Meg and I debated whether we even have time to stream because we just have had a lot of things we have to catch up on work. But we're like, we know we
never cut us off, but
Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
We
you
have
guys.
stuff. We have stuff.
I need to chug as much water as possible right now and like become human again.
So the last question, Tommy Tuno Gaming, I'm sure you guys have answered this already at some point, but when did Alex, Meg, and Devin meet, and how long have you guys known each other? So,
Alex and I met exactly a year ago.
yes, roughly a year ago. So to answer the question, Devin, I met Devin playing a game of In Too Deep from Burnt Island Games. We got invited to a shared online play of the experience, and we met, had a good time. He crushed me. It was not fun. Then later, maybe about a month or two later, I played another game with him, and that game was, I played Feed the Kraken with him, and that was a great game that I won. So, now we're tied. And I don't remember exactly what the third one was. I don't remember the third one, but I remember that we played a third game. And at that point, after that third game, we kind of like, hey, we like each other, and we've had a good time bantering back and forth. Let's connect briefly. And then we started connecting, and then we were in shared Facebook groups, and I saw posts from him, and then we started messaging each other here and there, and then he reached out for advice one time, and we started chatting, and then just bit by bit, we started becoming friends that way. It was kind of started off like a few games together, and then just becoming friends slowly but surely, until eventually he started really hanging out, being part of the crew, and just became one of my go-to favorite people. So friendship that started developed over the course of several months, and he's been my friend for 2 years now. Meg is at the year point. Meg basically is someone who I met playing Tidal Blades for Rise of the Unfolders roughly a year ago. I think it was February of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
It was, the reason I went exactly and remembered is because I was driving my car today to the P.O. box, and I need to get it inspected. It expired yesterday, you guys. It expired in February. And that's what made me think, because as soon as I got that car, I registered it, and 2 days later, I drove down to Ohio.
Nice. Yeah. So February of last year, we played Tidal Blades. We played that together. I think we hung out that night over at Jesse's or Cracklow, played Inish, played a bunch of games, and that's when you and I realized that we had a lot of overlap in our top 10 games. We looked up Terraforming Mars, Death May Die, Inish, a bunch of these games. And then from there, and that you couldn't lie. And then from there, I don't think I saw you again until Gamma, maybe 2.5 months later. I happened to be at Gamma, which is Game Manufacturer Associate. It's a convention that's more focused around industry folk and whatnot. And I think I ran into you briefly there, and then we hung out and played some games there.
And we actually played a role player.
We played role player, not role player adventures, role player.
Yeah.
We played role player there, and we hung out there. And then again, a month later, I think we both got invited to Codenames from the live stream of Codenames with Tim Riel over on Twitch.
Actually, we'll be on Codenames Live.
Yeah.
Soon, you guys.
I don't know when, but soon, yes.
We gotta look that up, but we'll be on Codenames Live coming up soon.
And then after that play of Codenames, incidentally it came up. I think like next week on my stream, I was talking about how like I'm not really going to be on Twitch, not really trying it out. And you're like, do you want to play Gloomhaven on Twitch? And I was like, sure, let's try it. So same idea, same thing. Both Meg and Devin were kind of a slow iterative process of interaction point, interaction point, interaction point. You know, then enough commonality, and then just from there. And then you and Devin met like convention by convention. The two of you had that. But yeah. And now to the last question. Srebme, why does Shelfclutter think that Rove is launching next week? Fun fact, Srebme, I didn't realize this video went up already, but I actually informed him. I informed him already that the Rove is not launching last week. I did not realize that the video already went up though. But yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because the way Shelfclutter works is he takes in the way I work. He takes in dates, and then you have a Kickstarter or crowdfunding date, and you put it into your system, and then sometimes you realize or you hear that the date is no longer applicable. But if you don't, then you still have it. Hey, that's the date. And so you don't. There's so many campaigns. Like I'm doing my research for my campaigns for coming from March. I have like 25 campaigns. I'm not double checking each one that the date is still valid. So sometimes you get things wrong, and it is what it is. It is the price of just voting on his Discord. There's still time. Yeah, I messaged him this morning saying Rove is not launching this week because we use the same shared file. Anyways,
Good.
with all that, that is going to be your live stream for this week. We'll be back. I don't know. There may or may not be a live stream next week. We'll find out. But past that, we will see you all at some point in the features for definite, for sure, and all that stuff.
And if you want to check it out, we'll be opening up the Final Girl package tonight on Camp Co-op YouTube.
Yeah, very good. Have a good one, everyone. We're going to get some work done and or just fall asleep. One of those two.
Bye. See you all later.